welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the Intercontinental Hotel here, delving deep into the state of the nation. With me here, Koinange Kabage and Ambassador Martin Kimani. By the way, the Twitter handles are respectively at Kabage, at Kenya Diplomat, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Gentlemen, let's switch gears and talk about Bensouda's this week. She was trying to adjourn the case against the president indefinitely so that, you know, when he leaves office eventually, he could still be answerable to the ICC. The judges rejected that. Ambassador, your thoughts?
Well, personally, I'm happy at this development. I think these cases, as we saw when the president went to The Hague, they puzzled many of us. They puzzled me personally. And I'm not speaking for the government when I say that this was something that we did not know how long this was going to keep going. And at what point the prosecution's admission that it had insufficient evidence to proceed to trial.
Is the end in sight?
Well, I'm not a legal expert. I think KK can talk to the legal matters, but I certainly hope the end is in sight for the president's case. Yeah. But that's not the only case at the ICC.
Right.
And all these cases are of extreme importance to the individuals concerned, but because of the president and the deputy president's role in our country, they're also of some concern to all of us.
KK, your thoughts about the ruling?
I think this is the beginning of the end, in my opinion. You see, any elementary student of law will tell you one thing. If you make allegations against anybody, it is upon you to prove that allegations. And one element that is always very fundamentally important is the issue of witnesses. Because you allege that so-and-so did A, B, C, D, okay, fine, you have alleged. How do you prove it? You prove it with a witness. Now, if Bensouda reached the point of saying, I just don't have the witnesses, I don't have, what is left of the case? It just collapses. And I think, in my opinion, when she had sought an indefinite adjournment of that case, I think she's a former Attorney General of Gambia. And she knows, she was a prosecutor, she knows very well, and she is a prosecutor at the ICC. She knows that that case did not have legs to stand on. And she was looking for the sort of decision that the judges have given to her. Because she's told, either you proceed, or we are not going to give your plea.
And it's a case she inherited, KK, isn't it?
She inherited the case, but
from your friend.
Molino Ocampo, as it were, was everybody's friend or everybody's enemy, depending on which side you're going to look. Yeah. You're looking at it. But the point of the matter is this: when the prosecutor went before the judges and made an emphatic, pronouncement, or made it clear, I don't have witnesses, I don't have sufficient evidence without witnesses to prosecute this particular case. Under normal circumstances, the judges should have terminated the case. But you must realize there is a political angle to the ICC. There are some major stakeholders. And those major stakeholders, Ocampo gave us a glimpse of it when in an interview in New York, I think with the Swedish papers, he said that there are some people who were pressurizing me to stop Uhuru from standing. Yeah. And I refused. Now, who are those people?
He also said that on BBC's Hard Talk.
All right?
Yeah.
He did not make a disclosure. But you don't have to require super intelligence to make an educated guess. The former ambassador of US, Johnny Carson, was very clear when he said, you Kenyans, the choices have consequences. Who was he speaking on his behalf? He must have been speaking on behalf of somebody. Absolutely. Now, those were the key stakeholders as far as this case is concerned. And Kenyans must be brave enough to tell the so-called friends that we have that, wait a minute, we know you, we can see you, we can clearly identify what are your self-interests in this particular matter.
At the end of the day, will the cases against Kenya, will they set a precedent as a lawyer Well, they said a precedent in the history of the ICC.
Every case sets a precedent, particularly this particular one. Where, you see, if you look at the statute very clearly, one of the most important aspects of the Rome Statute with respect to cases going there is, I think, Section 7 that says, or Article 7 that talks about you prosecute those people who have got the highest responsibility. Now, in our own case, were you able to get the accused who held the highest responsibility? And the answer is, frankly, no. The people who had at stake is Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga. Those are the two people who were either going to be beneficiaries or are the losers. So if you are going to prosecute anybody, these are the people, if at all they were involved, they must have been cheerleaders, so to speak. You know, have you ever seen American football?
Yes.
Where you have got these girls that normally, they were just basically
those are cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders, period.
Two quick points.
Yes.
One is that I think one of the things Kenyans will remember is the status conference. And they will remember the president giving up his presidential power to attend this status conference in The Hague. And what Kenyans will remember is the living expression of our constitution, the faith in our constitution, that a leader in this day and age, not just in Kenya, not just in Africa, globally, would say that the constitution and my political partnership is strong enough for me to step down, meet some obligations I've got, and come back and continue working, just as he promised. I think people will remember that. People will also remember the length of this process. It's been 5 years now. Do you know when you accuse someone, when you make allegations for 5 years, it's very easy for allegations to begin to look like evidence. And people will remember how long it took. They'll remember that there were 5 years in which lawyers and investigators and witnesses were running up and down, and that it all came to where we are now. And I think Kenyans should also remember why we joined the International Criminal Court in the first place. We didn't join the African International Criminal Court. We joined International Criminal Court. If you look at the carnage across the globe, if you look at the carnage in the Middle East, in North Africa, in parts of Asia, then one wonders really about that word international. And I think Kenyans should interrogate that. As a diplomat, I certainly do, because what it looks like to me is that the global system of the powerful and the less powerful has asserted itself over time, so that Africa has been singled out. And a lot of people jump and say African presidents this, African presidents that. But I tell you, if anyone looks at the news and says, where is the body count of atrocities in the world today, you will not only come up with Africa. And that is why we joined the ICC, so that everyone could be accountable.
So why not opt out, Balozi? Why not opt out like African countries had, well, threatened to a while back, opt out en masse?
Well, look, as a simple diplomat, that is above my pay grade. That is something the Kenyan people are going to have to interrogate for themselves through their representatives. And those of us in the executive, our job is to really carry out the wishes of the Kenyan people.
Yeah, I've heard your pay grade is quite high, so you're probably not telling the truth. KK, real quick, we don't have too much time. You spoke of the opposition a while back.
Yes.
Why are they calling for the resignation of the president? I mean, is that just talk? Is that hot air? Is that...
that is their stock in trade. They don't have anything else to say. I mean, if you ask any of them, give us a prescription of what you would have done differently from what the current president and his executive is doing. They have no idea. They're clueless. But because it is very romantic to make statements of that nature, they don't have a lot of choice. But you can tell from their body language, they actually don't mean what they're saying. They're saying for the press and for the papers to sell. That's what it is. Because none of them, I can tell you, has the wherewithal, the crew of the problem that we are dealing with. None of them, I can tell you that. They don't even understand the genealogy of it, nor have they interrogated the genealogy of it. So they must say what they are saying. But I would like to ask these guys, very, and I'm not holding brief for anybody. I'm talking about as a Kenyan. We are facing the loss of life of Kenyans. It is our country's reputation that is at stake. It is our country that is being attacked. This is a time to close ranks. Both the opposition and the government or the administration, so that the Mwananchi, the ordinary Mwananchi, can see when it comes to a matter of security, it affects every one of us as Kenyans. And it's time to say, wait a minute, this issue needs to be addressed from the holistic aspect. But the first point is we must come together, not to start pointing fingers, and yet you don't even have demonstrable capacity, even if you are in the government, for that matter, to be able to do anything. They don't have anything. Yes.
And Jeff, Kenyans have something special, and there are enemies who do not want us to have what we have. There are enemies who don't want us to have our democracy. There are enemies who don't want us to get anywhere. And so these terrorists and their friends and their supporters, their only vision is to destroy something good that's getting better. And that is why the closing of ranks as Kenyans, it's not because we're not angry that those people died. It's not that we're not disappointed that those particular attacks were not prevented, even when others were. It's that we have to come together now and say, it's our country. Much, even more than that, it's my family, it's my little street, it's my village, and to understand that we have to actually come together. This government is not the government of the people who voted for it. So to me, Kenya is going to see off this threat. And I know we're going to see off this threat because when we decided to see off an empire, we did. And that was no small thing. And so Al-Shabaab, when you compare Al-Shabaab to the empire we saw off, it's very weak. And we will eventually defeat it. I have no doubt about that.
That was your last word, Balozi. Well put. KK, you have the final thoughts, please.
My hearts go to the 60-odd individuals that died in the hands of truly true mercenaries as far as I'm concerned, and also maybe some internal people. My heart goes to their families. And finally, I like to tell fellow Kenyans, this is a time to be counted as a patriotic, peace-loving Kenyan who has to stand with his country at the moment of challenges that we are facing. But we shall definitely be able to see it through if we manage to wrestle with Her Majesty's government. In 1963, we lifted our national flag. We will be able to deal with this particular problem. But it is going to be a long-haul issue. Let no Kenyan be under any illusion that is going to be a fly-by-night or a flash on the pan. Yes.
Gentlemen, good to see you. Balozi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate your time.
Thank
KK,
you.
as always,
Pleasure.
good stuff, man.
Thank you.
Two intellects. One point of view about the state of the nation. That's what we need to do. Keep talking. Because the minute we stop talking is the minute we start fighting. And these gentlemen here providing great insights about the way forward, about how we should be, have always been, should always be all Kenyan. Complete the phrase. Thanks so much for joining us. Next week, a new show, new week, new guests, new topics. And it's Jamhuri Day week, so it's going to be all about inspiration from here on down. Inspiration all the way into the new year. Folks overcoming insurmountable odds. You're going to want to watch the coming shows in the coming weeks because it's going to be the likes of, remember Stacey Sang, the young lady from Musangari who was part of that accident that killed one of their colleagues and injured several others. Her and many others coming up next week going forward. Thanks so much for joining us. Keep tweeting at Kabage, at Kenya Diplomat, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Thanks so much for watching. Good night. Good luck. Gentlemen, good stuff. Thank you. Nice one, KK. Sweet stuff. Sweet.